My name is Clara Whitlow, and I'm 28. I have never been afraid of coming home before. I've been afraid of missing flights, of losing luggage, of oversleeping through alarms so loud they make the glass ring. But never of my own front door. The jet lag hum is still inside my bones when the key turns. Click. My lock has a sound I know better than my heartbeat. 3 years of late nights, of setting it from the inside, of breathing out the day as the deadbolt slides home. Only today the sound opens onto a room that doesn't recognize me. My walls used to be this deep, steady blue ocean, at midnight blue, because I work in marketing and my head runs bright all day. At night I need the tide to come and take the glare away. Now the blue is gone. Someone has painted everything a soft pink I would never choose. A floral couch sits where my leather sectional used to be. There's a white IKEA bookcase with staged live laugh love prints where my vintage black shelves should be. A lamp with a feathered shade flirts in the corner. My desk, my sanctuary of cables, a monitor arm, my mechanical keyboard like a little city of light missing. I stand in my own doorway and wonder whether a flight can land you in a parallel universe. Then I see it. A photo on the wall, centered like a thesis, my sister Addison in a white dress at graduation. My parents on either side, their smiles polished like showroom chrome. The frame is new. The message is not. My phone vibrates. 3 messages stacked on my lock screen. Ethan touchdown. I'm parked outside your building if you need help. Ethan again. Grabbed you dumplings and a weird ginger drink you like. No nepjob. Family first is how we heal. Some people forget that. A link. An Instagram story. A muted photo of a hallway with pink light and a caption. Home is where you're needed. The account belongs to Sabrina Ethan's ex-girlfriend. We aren't connected, but I recognize her handle because once you know someone's weather system, you learn where the storms come from. Clara. A throat clears behind me. I turn. James, the building super, stands in the hall, like a man who has already confessed to a crime in his head and is now working backwards to find a softer word. What happened to my apartment, I ask. My voice is very calm, like a surface with rip currents under it. He won't meet my eyes. Your parents said... He glances over his shoulder as if the painted walls might overhear. They said they were the owners and wanted to surprise you with an upgrade. And your sister needed a fresh start. They are not the owners, I say. I am. I know that now, he mutters. They had paperwork. I didn't look close enough. He swallows. Your things are safe, in storage. Where? He stammers out an address. I type it. My hands shake exactly once. I decide that will be the only time I let them. James, I say, who had keys. He flinches. They brought a locksmith. It was fast. It's the small things that break me first. In the kitchen, there is a candle that says cotton blossom when I am allergic to synthetic perfume. The oven mitts are brand new and already stained. A pink dish towel is bunched damp. And under it all, a thin ghost of cigarettes. Addison hasn't smoked since college, or at least that's the official story my mother repeats at holidays. I never allowed smoking here. It was one of my house rules spoken once obeyed, always until now. I call my mother. She answers with a brightness that sounds like tinsel. Clara Europe. Tell me everything. You painted my home, I say. You replaced my furniture. You moved my belongings into a storage unit without my consent. Why? We knew you wouldn't mind helping your sister, she says, as if she's pouring lemonade. Addison needs a place to land after Tyler. She can't stay with him. It was a toxic situation. And you're always at work, honey. You practically live at your office. My father gets on the line without hello. We paid for 3 months of storage up front. You can get your things anytime. Be gracious. Your sister is family. I am also family, I say. Exactly, my mother replies sweetly. You understand. I hang up because there's a place you go in conversations like this, and once you arrive, there is no map out. Addison answers on the second ring. Claire Bear. Before you freak out. Addison, you replaced my life with yours. Mom said you were cool with it. She said you were ready to redecorate anyway. You never liked that blue. You don't get to decide what I like. She sighs the way only the golden child can, with the confidence of permanent absolution. You could stay with me a few weeks. Sister sleepover. I'm not staying in my own apartment because you turned it into a remake of your Pinterest board. Well, it looks better now, she says, cheerfully cruel. And listen, it's not just about me. You've always had everything handled. I need a fresh start. I needed one too, I say quietly. That's why I bought this place. Silence. Then the sound of a lighter, a drag, a careless exhale. You're being dramatic. I end the call, book a last-minute room at a hotel 2 blocks away, and pay with the emergency card I never touch. The lobby smells like lemon polish and quiet despair. I text Ethan hotel across the street. I can't. It's not mine right now. He replies immediately. I'm here. Dumplings and ginger drink. Pause. Then, do you want me to call your mom? No, I write and then, not yet. When he arrives, Ethan puts the food down first and me second. He doesn't say I told you so about my mother's surprised tendencies about the way Addison floats above consequence like a balloon that refuses to come down. He wraps me in his jacket because my hands won't warm up. I'll help you document everything tomorrow, he says. Photos, the storage unit, receipts. We call a lawyer at 9. I nod. Outside Bangkok, rain begins a soft drum on the awning, distant and precise. Inside the TV in the bar, murmurs about weather fronts curling across a map, all those blue storms computer predicted and polite. My phone blooms again, a group chat that includes family cousins I barely speak to. My aunt neutrally phrased, "Your mother says you were cruel to Addison. She's in a fragile place. Couldn't you share for a while?" I type and delete, and decide to let absence be my sentence. Once I'm alone, I look at photos from the trip Rome streetlight on wet cobblestone, a Lisbon hill in lemon sun, a postcard smile I sent Addison with, "Wish you were here," scrawled on the back. I wonder whether she tossed it the way she left my blue walls, quietly, without looking confident that someone would clean up after. I check the storage facility's hours. They open at 8. I write a list in the hotel's little stationery pad. Deed, mortgage, tax statements. Police report, ask lawyer. First building management meeting request. Change locks, security upgrade, quote. Document. Every item and damage. Therapist appointment. Find someone trauma aware. At 2:11 a.m., I wake from a dream of walking into my apartment and finding not furniture, but all the words I never said lining the walls instead. No. Stop. Mine. I make tea with the in-room kettle, and it tastes like the last guest's coffee. I open Instagram for a distraction. The story's still up Sabrina's pink-lit hallway. That caption like a dare home is where you're needed. It's petty to suspect she meant me. It's naive to pretend she didn't. Ethan has a history he told me before we began, and that's what made him save Clarity. Sabrina couldn't let go. She liked claiming public moral high ground in private storms. It was dramatic and sticky and made me feel like the third person in a 2-person room. We agreed on boundaries, the kind you say out loud and write down if you need to. But boundaries only work when everyone agrees to be human, and I'm not sure my family ever learned that part. By morning, the rain has washed the city into a clean, reflective version of itself. I walk across the street to my building and wait for management to open the office. Through the glass, I can see my reflection layered over the lobby plants, like a ghost auditioning for a life. James passes by with a clipboard, tries to avoid me, then decides there are worse things than telling the truth. I'm going to have to file reports, I say, with management, with the police. You're going to have to explain how you let unauthorized people into an owner's unit. He nods a slow human acceptance, not the quick bob of a man with a script. I'll tell them, he says. All of it. Thank you. When the manager finally unlocks the door, I introduce myself with my full name and a calm I manufacture in real time. I need you to understand what has happened, I say, placing the deed copy on the desk like a passport at a border. My parents are not on it. No one had authorization to enter my home. My sister is living there now, smoking in my kitchen. This will be corrected. Today we begin. Somewhere in the building, I imagine the pink paint drying a little more. Somewhere in my chest, a boundary slides into place with the same sound as a lock, turning recognizable final. I don't know if the next part will be furious or quiet, but I know that a life can be rebuilt plank by plank, paperwork by paperwork, photograph by photograph. And when I finally step back into that apartment as its undeniable owner, the first thing I'll restore won't be the blue walls. It'll be the rule that says I decide who I am at home and who gets to cross the threshold. By 9:11 a.m., my voice has its courtroom tone flat, factual, a scalpel instead of a fist. I sit at a cafe 2 doors from the management office with my laptop open, a scanner app on my phone, and a stack of documents that prove I exist on paper, exactly where my family pretends I don't. Deed, mortgage, tax records. I line them like guard dogs across the walnut table. Ethan slides a box of dumplings toward me and a legal pad already headed with today's date. Chain of custody, he says, half grim, half gentle. He photographs every page and airdrops them to a folder he named Clara Home. It's a small kindness that feels like armor. At 9:07, my attorney answers. Mara Venkataraman, tenant rights specialist voice, crisp as a folded letter. I give her the whole story, no embroidery. She listens without interruption, typing, as if she's chasing my future down in real time. Immediate steps, she says. 1, formal demand letters to your parents, your sister, and building management. 2, police report updated with exhibits. 3, evidence preservation photos, video of the current condition of your unit storage unit inventory. 4, do not enter the unit alone. 5, do not communicate with your family, except in writing. And James, I ask, the super management issue. But document his statements today, word for word, if you can. He facilitated unauthorized entry, whether knowingly or negligently. Ethan taps his pen. We'll transcribe. Mara's email pings a template. Set of letters already tailored, demand for immediate restoration and cessation of trespass. Notice of fraudulent misrepresentation to management. Cease and desist. Every word is a plank over water. We print copies at the cafe's little business center, and it feels surreal to feed paper into a machine while my home wears someone else's face across the street. Ethan signs as a witness. I initial every page like I'm pressing a thumb into wet cement. At 10:02, we walk into the building office. The manager, Jeannie, looks up with that guilty start people get when the story they heard was the pretty one. I set the deed down again, the way a surgeon lays out instruments. Jeannie, I need you to see the facts. She does. I can tell the exact moment they rearrange her face. Her posture shifts from placate the difficult daughter to we are in trouble. She skims Mara's letter, then reads it a second time slower, as if the words might quit shouting if she listens better. We will investigate immediately, she says. James is here. James says from the doorway, pulled like iron by magnet. He's paler than yesterday, jaw clenched, as if it hurts to hold. I told her I'd tell you everything. Jeannie nods stiff. We'll take this to the conference room. The room has a long table, a bowl of glass marbles meant to look like water drops, and the kind of sweeping city photograph that turns any place into a brochure. Ethan sits beside me, silent but present, and opens his notes. Jeannie sets her phone on the table face down, as if it might betray her to the truth. Start at the beginning, I say to James. My voice is softer than I feel. The first time my parents approached you. He swallows. 3 months ago. They asked about renovation policy, said it was a surprise for their daughter who owned a unit. I told them owners can renovate, structural changes need approval. They came back 2 weeks later with papers saying they were the owners and you were just living there while you established yourself. They said you knew. They tipped me. How much? Ethan asked neutral. 2,000, James says, eyes closed. I told myself it was for the extra coordination. They brought a locksmith. It was quick. They said you were on board but wanted to be wowed. He grimaces at the memory of the word. Did you ever contact me directly, I ask? No, he says. I believe them. Then quieter, I wanted to believe them. Jeannie's pen stops. James step outside. When the door closes, she exhales like she's been holding air for days. Ms. Whitlow, the building apologizes for the breach. We will restore your unit to its prior condition at our expense where applicable, and we will cooperate with any investigation. James is placed on administrative leave, effective immediately pending internal review. It's not absolution. It isn't supposed to be. But it is the first adult thing anyone besides Ethan has done since the pink paint dried. I hand Jeannie a copy of Mara's letter. Please route this to your legal department. We'll need access to internal communications about my unit key logs, security footage, and any work orders that reference my address and the names of my parents or sister. Understood, she says, already emailing. You may also relocate to a vacant one-bedroom down the hall at a reduced rate, while restoration occurs if you prefer not to stay in a hotel. She hesitates. I know that doesn't undo. It acknowledges it, I say. That's a start. By noon, Ethan and I are at the storage facility, a corrugated maze that smells like cardboard and secrets. The clerk checks my ID 3 times because the rental agreement is in my name, but the credit card on file belongs to my father. My stomach does that slow, foamy churn I remember from childhood road trips where my parents argued across the front seats while the interstate unspooled into heat. Unit 317 rolls up to reveal my life in boxes, some labeled in my mother's careful classroom print, desk books, others panicked and wrong. Cable's kitchen, with a question mark that makes me want to throw something. My mechanical keyboard's keycaps have popped like teeth in a pocket. My PC tower is packed on its side beneath a sack of throw pillows that aren't mine. Ethan takes photos before we touch anything. Baseline, he murmurs more to the record than to me. We inventory for 2 hours. There's damage, a splintered table leg, a gouge in the monitor, my framed print of a city map cracked like ice. I think of the way Addison tosses her bags down anywhere expecting the world to cushion her. I add replacement costs next to each wounded thing. This is grief, but it is also math. At 2:40 p.m., Mara calls back. Demand letters delivered, she says. Expect your parents to respond with the 4 horsemen: confusion, benevolence, blame, and bargain. Management appears cooperative. I'll request a remedial plan in writing by end of day. Police, I ask? I've spoken with a contact at the precinct, she says. They are skeptical of pursuing B&E when family is involved, but your updated report with exhibits helps. We'll file it anyway. Paper trails are Time's favorite food. On cue, my phone vibrates. Mother. I let it ring into voicemail. Then it arrives as a voice note that sounds like Sunday China. Clara, sweetheart, your father and I are horrified you're making such a fuss. We were helping. Addison has no safe place. Tyler was a monster. You can share. We paid for storage. Be reasonable. Text follows from my father. Half the repairs on us if Addison can stay 6 more months. Final offer. Be a good sister. I forward both to Mara. She responds with a single word documented. Ethan reads over my shoulder and snorts softly. Final offer, he repeats as if tasting the phrase. They think this is a pawnshop negotiation. I send a single reply to my parents through email, CCing Mara. All communication regarding my home must go through counsel. Please cease contacting me directly. At 4:10 p.m., Jeannie emails management. Accepts responsibility for failure to verify ownership claims. We will, 1. Rekey your unit immediately. 2. Restrict access to authorized personnel only. 3. Restore paint fixtures and layout per your photographs. 4. Cover damaged common elements and contractor fees. 5. Provide temporary housing at Unit 805 for up to 60 days at 50% rate. Please confirm. Attached are key logs and a contractor work order with my mother's maiden name like a calling card left on a crime scene. Jeannie also attaches a single still from the security camera my sister in oversized sunglasses holding a paint sample fan like a bouquet. I confirm acceptance, book Unit 805 for the week, and feel a line inside me stop vibrating. Let me cook tonight, Ethan says, as if simplicity could be a spell, even if it's just noodles. We'll sit on a floor that belongs to you. I nod. It sounds like the opposite of the pink. It sounds like home is where the person you are is allowed to sit down. At 6:03 p.m., a ping Sabrina has posted again. A photo of a hand holding a key fob. Caption. Some people hoard spaces they don't even use. Family paperwork. The comments fizz with performative empathy from people who weren't there. I stare at the screen until the words go out of focus. Ethan touches my wrist. Block it, he says. I'm not afraid of her, I say. I didn't say you were, he answers. I'm saying your bandwidth isn't infinite. I block. It feels like closing a window in a storm. That night, Unit 805 is spare and echoing. The tiles are clean. The air smells like new paint and nothing else. Ethan boils noodles and scrambles eggs and tosses scallions he found in a plastic bin, and it is a banquet. We eat cross-legged backs against the cabinet, laughing at how the chopsticks are too smooth and the soy sauce is too sweet. The laughter is a muscle I forgot I had. Before sleep, I write to myself in the hotel pad I carried up like a talisman. Truth is slow but steady. Gaslight is bright but burns out. Every paper cut leaves ink that shows up later in court. I set my phone to Do Not Disturb and watch the city lights turn the window into a dark mirror. Somewhere downstairs, my apartment glows pink. Upstairs, I glimmer gray and gold and stubborn. Tomorrow, we open the door with the right key. 3 weeks. That's how long my sister squatted in my apartment after the letters went out. 3 weeks of excuses that arrived like weather reports. The mover's canceled. The new place isn't ready. I'm too fragile right now. Every message wrapped in emotional tinsel with my mother's fingerprints all over the phrasing. I could practically hear her voice coaching Tone Matters Addison. Be soft. She hates soft. When the formal eviction papers finally landed on Addison's doorstep delivered by a neutral third party, she called me crying. Are you serious, Clara? You're evicting your own sister. No, I said calmly. You're evicting yourself. I just filed the paperwork. She hung up with a sob that didn't sound entirely real. The following week, the locksmith rekeyed the apartment under building supervision. The Super James was officially terminated, and Jeannie from management handed me 2 new sets of keys engraved with my initials. We'll monitor her move out, she promised, and we'll document everything. When Addison finally left, she took more than she brought: my kitchenware, the coffee machine, several small electronics that had already been returned from storage. The furniture she'd chosen stayed pink couch, white table, and fake greenery taped to the walls, but the apartment looked violated, exhausted, like a body after surgery that hadn't healed yet. The damages were worse than I expected. Beneath the floral wallpaper, the hardwood floors were gouged and burned in patches. Several holes had been covered with framed art. A yellowed cigarette smell clung to the air like regret no matter how many windows I opened. My father's voice echoed from a voicemail. It's just wear and tear. You can afford to fix it. The implication, as always, was, you can afford boundaries, so we can afford to break them. Building management was surprisingly humane through it all. They covered part of the repair costs, offered contractors to repaint, and even reduced my maintenance fees for 3 months. Their apology was official, typed, notarized. That mattered. What didn't matter what cut instead was my family's response. My father's email. We'll pay half the repairs if you let Addison stay 6 more months. She's finally focusing on her career. Don't ruin her momentum. My mother's text a few hours later. We're so hurt by your coldness, Clara. Family sacrifices for family. You're making this all about money. Money. Always the word they used. To shame me when logic failed. Never mind that I worked through college while they funded Addison's art residencies, unpaid internships, and whims that lasted 3 weeks each. Never mind that I'd never asked them for a cent since I was 22. I forwarded both messages to Mara. Her reply was a single sentence: gaslighting often arrives, gift-wrapped as guilt. The next few weeks blurred into dust and noise. Contractors stripped the pink paint from my walls. Each roller of primer felt like an exorcism. The smell of fresh coating mixed with disinfectant became my new scent of healing. I tried to sleep in the temporary Unit 805, but dreams came like subpoenas. Addison lighting a cigarette in my kitchen, my mother's voice calling it a favor, a pink shadow creeping up the gray wall. I began therapy. Dr. Nia Holloway was calm, mid-40s, with the kind of voice that could talk a fire into staying put. You're describing violation, she said in our first session. Not a misunderstanding. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between emotional and physical trespass. So this isn't overreaction, I asked. She smiled gently. This is the body remembering its no. Those sessions became anchors. We talked about the family hierarchy, Addison, as the orbit me, as the satellite, expected to keep revolving quietly. We talked about gaslight economics, how my parents' help always came with an invoice of loyalty, and we talked about reclamation, which wasn't revenge, but redefinition. You're not destroying the family, Dr. Holloway said. You're ending a dynasty of denial. Ethan was my constant during this. He'd show up after work with takeout, roll up his sleeves, and help me scrub floors or repaint trim. He didn't lecture. He just worked beside me, steady, deliberate. But cracks appeared around the edges, not from him, but from Sabrina, his ex. Her presence was a faint static post shared, memes, little phrases that seemed designed to echo my situation. Some women love being victims. Blood always wins. The comments were harmless on the surface, but the timing was surgical. Ethan saw it too. I blocked her, he said one night, but she's still watching. Mutual friends forward her nonsense. Does it bother you, I asked. Not as much as it bothers you, he said softly, because you see patterns now everywhere. He wasn't wrong. Once you've been gaslit by your family, even ordinary shadows start to look suspicious. By mid-month, the civil case gained momentum. Mara assembled a portfolio of evidence, copies of management's apology letters, James's written admission, photos of damages, texts and voicemails from my parents. She called it a story the judge will understand. Meanwhile, the police finally took a formal statement, largely symbolic, but still necessary. It's complicated with family, the officer said. Intent can be tricky. Mara's laugh on the phone afterward was all ice. Intent is what you get when people sign for a storage unit in your name with their credit card. The superintendent, once complicit, now wrote a statement too. He apologized in long paragraphs mentioning how convincing my parents had been. It was small consolation, but the paper trail thickened. Despite progress, my parents' campaign spread like wildfire through our extended family. One cousin messaged, "You've humiliated your mom. She cries every day. Just forgive." Another wrote, "Can't believe you're suing your own blood." My aunt, the same one who once defended Addison's art phase after I got promoted, called me selfish. I responded to no one. Dr. Holloway said silence is a boundary too. Still, silence doesn't mean serenity. It was exhausting to defend reality itself, to wake each day knowing someone you love has rewritten the story while you were asleep. Some nights I'd lie in bed and imagine time rewinding, me walking through that door again. The blue walls still there, the air clean, the bookshelf untouched. Addison smiling, but not entitled. My mother proud, without conditions. But you can't unpaint betrayal. You can only choose the color that covers it. 2 months after the initial incident, the building's repairs finished. My apartment. My apartment was back to neutral gray walls, my furniture mostly restored from storage. New locks installed, new security cameras humming quietly. I stood in the doorway with the new keys trembling. Ethan behind me. "Want to do the honors?" he asked. I turned the lock. The sound clicked cleanly like punctuation. The living room looked plain now, stripped of all personality. That was fine. Better to start from zero than live in someone else's fantasy. But the moment my foot crossed the threshold, my chest clenched. A phantom smell, cigarette-cheap perfume, pink paint rushed back. I almost stepped out again. Ethan squeezed my hand. "Hey," he said quietly, "it's yours again. Let the air change." We opened every window. Light poured in, chasing ghosts into corners. I took one long breath and whispered to no one in particular, never again. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, I began reclaiming more than a home. I was reclaiming the version of myself that didn't apologize for ownership. That night, I received a final call from my father. "I heard you filed civil charges," he said coldly. "Yes. You think you'll win? I don't need to win," I said. "I just need to stop losing to you." There was a long silence. Then, "You're ungrateful." "No," I said. "I'm awake." He hung up. Ethan and I stood together in the new gray apartment, the echoes softer now. "You okay?" he asked. "Not yet," I said, "but I'm finally closer." The clock on the wall ticked into midnight. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like recovery. Tomorrow Mara would call with news about an unexpected witness. But tonight, I let the quiet be mine. 2 months later, I received a message that made me freeze mid-sip of coffee. Tyler Weston, Addison's ex-boyfriend. The one my parents had called abusive controlling, and the reason Addison had needed refuge in my apartment. His message was brief. "Hi, Clara. I know this is out of the blue, but I think I have information that might help your case. Could we talk?" For 5 minutes, I stared at it, half expecting it to vanish. Then I sent back a cautious yes. Public place. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the Lantern Cafe. Tyler arrived early, sitting near the window with a folder in front of him. He looked nothing like the monster my parents had described, nervous, polite, a little thinner than I remembered from old photos. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. "I know it's strange." "Strange is kind of my life now," I replied. He nodded, exhaling. "I've been following what happened to you through mutuals. When I read about the apartment thing, it sounded familiar." He opened the folder. Inside, credit card statements, emails, screenshots. Addison opened 3 cards. "In my name," he said quietly. "Ran up over $15,000 in debt before I caught it. When I confronted her, she cried. Yushanaim said she planned to pay them off before I noticed. She told me she deserved nice things. When I ended it, your parents showed up at my apartment." I blinked. My parents. They accused me of abandoning her, threatened to call my boss with abuse allegations. They even sent emails here. He slid a printout across the table. I read the familiar cadence. You broke our daughter's heart, and you will regret treating her this way. My father's phrasing formal, menacing. They told my landlord I was dangerous, Tyler continued. I lost my lease, had to move out in a week. When I saw what they did to you, I realized this is their pattern. Same manipulation, same lies. I sat back, the cafe noise dissolving around us. A pattern. That word kept pulsing like a warning light. Why now? I asked. Because I'm tired of being quiet, he said simply. And because you're the first person who fought back. That night, I forwarded everything to Mara. She called within minutes. Clara, this is gold, she said. It shows a consistent pattern of deceit and coercion. We can use it to prove your parents' actions weren't isolated, they were systemic. What about Tyler? I asked. Could he testify? If he's willing, yes. It strengthens your credibility. Tyler was willing, more than willing. He wanted to make sure, in his words, they never do this to anyone else. The next week was a blur of paperwork and discovery meetings. Mara's conference room filled with stacks of printed emails, receipts, and annotated timelines. I watched her weave it all together, dates, motives, manipulation, until even on paper, my family looked like strangers. My parents' tone shifted once they realized we had leverage. My father's lawyer reached out first. Our clients are deeply remorseful. They acted under mistaken assumptions about ownership and intend to make amends privately. Translation, we're cornered. Let's settle quietly. Mara smirked at the phrasing. Mistaken assumptions. They faked ownership documents, broke in, and defaced your property. We're not giving them dignity by rewriting it as a mix-up. I almost laughed. The woman was unflappable. But she was right. We had them. Meanwhile, Addison doubled down on her victim act. She started posting on social media cryptic quotes about betrayal, some people just want to watch you fall, and even a GoFundMe titled, Help Addison Rebuild Her Life After Family Abuse. She conveniently left out that the abuser was her own sister and that the home she claimed to have fled from was mine. It spread fast, shared by her friends, sympathy rolling in, until Tyler stepped in. He reported the fundraiser as fraudulent, attaching copies of her credit card schemes and emails. Within 48 hours, the page vanished. Addison went silent online after that. The settlement came the following week. After a tense mediation, my parents agreed to pay for all damages, legal fees, and an additional $25,000 for emotional distress. A restraining order would prevent them from entering my building without written permission. Mara handed me the pen. You don't have to sign this if you want to go to trial, she said. I looked at the papers, at the tidy language that turned chaos into clauses, and realized something. I didn't need revenge. I needed release. I signed. That night, Ethan and I opened a bottle of cheap Prosecco and drank it out of coffee mugs. You did it, he said softly. You got your home back. Your name cleared everything. Not everything, I said, just the truth. And sometimes that's enough. He smiled, eyes warm. Enough to start over. I hesitated. Maybe, but I don't know if this place can ever feel like home again. We stood in the living room, the walls now soft gray. For a second, I thought I saw the faintest blush of pink in the corner, the ghost of my sister's makeover. Then the light shifted, and it was gone. In the following days, I caught small ripples of fallout. My parents canceled their social club membership, quietly trying to avoid gossip. Addison moved back home, alternating between depression posts and selfies captioned New Beginnings. Extended family split into two camps, those who called me brave and those who called me cold. I stayed silent through it all. Dr. Holloway said something that stuck with me. Vindication isn't peace. It's just proof that you weren't crazy. Peace is what you build after. And I wanted peace more than victory. One evening, as I sorted old documents into boxes, I found something wedged behind a stack of insurance papers, an old photo. Me and Addison as kids. She's 7, I'm 9. We're sitting on a blanket fort we built. Both smiling, hair tangled. My arm is around her shoulders. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, our girls, Addison, the sunshine, Clara, the storm. I stared at that line until it blurred. Sunshine gets the warmth. Storms get blamed for the rain. I tucked the photo into a drawer. Not to keep, not to throw away, just to remember what used to be true before the favoritism turned into something darker. Before bed, Ethan scrolled through his phone and frowned. Sabrina posted something again, he said. You probably shouldn't look. What is it? He sighed. A quote about loyalty, but she tagged you indirectly. I shrugged. Let her talk. She's just another echo. He smiled faintly. You're really done, aren't you? I thought of my family, the signed settlement, the way Addison's GoFundMe had disappeared. Yeah, I said quietly. I think I finally am. But that night I still dreamed of doors, thousands of them all, with different locks, all leading to rooms I used to know. When I woke, the sun was rising gray and clean across my windows, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to look back. The story wasn't finished yet, but the war was. Tomorrow, I would make one last decision that would close this chapter for good. It's been 1 year since the day I came home to find my life painted pink. 1 year since the word family stopped feeling like a promise and started sounding like a contract I never signed. The lawsuit is over. The checks cleared. My parents paid every cent through their lawyer as if money could whitewash betrayal. The papers were crisp, the signatures sterile. No apology, just compliance. And I've moved on, literally. I sold the apartment 2 months ago. When I handed the new owners the keys, I felt nothing but relief. No sentimental flashbacks, no cinematic slow-motion tears, just a deep, final exhale. Ethan stood beside me that day holding the last box. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes," I said. It never felt clean again. You can repaint walls, but you can't repaint memory. Now I live in a townhouse on a quiet street. 2 stories, small backyard, a patch of grass, just big enough for a dog to dream in. Her name is June, a rescue mutt with uneven ears and a loyalty that feels unearned. She follows me everywhere, into the kitchen, into silence, into peace. Every morning I open the back door, watch her sprint into the sunlight, and think this is mine. The word mine used to sound selfish. My parents trained me to believe that sharing was love and boundaries were cruelty. Now it sounds like oxygen. My relationship with Ethan survived the storm, though not unchanged. He saw the worst of me. The panic, the mistrust, the nights I double-checked locks at 3 a.m. He never complained. When I told him I needed space to rediscover who I was without the noise of my family's chaos, he nodded. "I'll be here," he said. "Just don't build walls so high you forget there's a door." We found a rhythm again, calmer, quieter, less about fixing and more about being. He still teases me about my meticulous budgeting and the fact that I label every folder, but now his laughter feels like home, not intrusion. As for Sabrina, his ex, she made one last attempt at relevance, a thinly veiled post about women who weaponize trauma for attention. Ethan reported it, then blocked her for good. That chapter closed with a satisfying click. Therapy continued. Dr. Holloway says closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's a lock changing quietly while you sleep. She's right. Some nights I still wake up thinking I hear someone rearranging my furniture. Other times I walk into a room and my body tenses like it's bracing for trespass. But then June will nudge my hand and the present returns, simple, safe, unremarkably mine. I've learned that trauma doesn't disappear. It just stops leading the conversation. My parents tried to reconcile once, months after the settlement. They sent a letter, not handwritten, but printed on thick cream paper, like a Christmas newsletter. "We may have made some poor choices, but we only wanted to help. Family makes mistakes. We hope you'll see that in time." Not a single sentence contained the word sorry. They didn't ask for forgiveness. They asked for revision. I didn't respond. They've since turned their attention back to Addison, who, according to distant cousins, moved to another state with a new boyfriend and yet another career pivot. This time she's coaching entrepreneurs online. The irony doesn't even sting anymore. I used to fantasize about confronting them all one more time, telling them how their favoritism felt like being erased in slow motion. But now I don't need their comprehension to confirm my reality. Dr. Holloway said, "The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference." I finally understand that. A few months ago, I got an email from Tyler. He wrote that his credit score had finally recovered and he'd opened his own small design studio. He attached a picture of a sign that read, "Weston Creative Owned and Earned." Underneath, he'd written, "You taught me that phrase, Clara. Thank you." We still meet for coffee sometimes. It's not romantic, it's something steadier, built on mutual survival. Two people who crawled out of the same storm and learned how to breathe again. He calls us siblings by trauma. I call us even. When holidays come, I don't flinch anymore. I used to dread them. The guilt texts, the pity invitations, the obligation to play the forgiving daughter. Now I spend them differently. Last Christmas, Ethan and I hosted a small dinner with friends and neighbors. We lit candles, played board games, and laughed until midnight. No drama, no manipulation, no silent treatments, just warmth. For dessert, I made my grandmother's apple tart recipe, the only good thing that survived from my mother's side of the family. As the smell filled the kitchen, Ethan said, "It smells like home." And for the first time, I realized he was right. I still keep one photo from the past, the same one I found in the paperwork pile. The two little girls on the blanket fort, Addison, the sunshine, Clara, the storm. Sometimes I look at it and whisper, we both deserve better. Then I put it back in the drawer. Because I've learned that healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about refusing to let it decorate your present. 2 weeks ago, I started volunteering at a legal aid nonprofit that helps tenants facing housing violations. When clients come in with stories of forced evictions or family coercion, I listen and I tell them, you're not overreacting, you're responding appropriately to disrespect. It's strange how full circle life can be. The same kind of papers that once broke me, demand letters, reports, affidavits are now the tools I use to protect others. Sometimes I still hear Mara's voice in my head. Paper trails are time's favorite food. Now I help people write their own. Tonight, I sit on my porch with June curled beside me. The air smells like rain and jasmine. Inside, there's a warm light spilling from the living room window, a small soft glow that means safety, not scrutiny. I run my thumb over my new house key, feeling its smooth edge. It doesn't just open a door, it represents everything I rebuilt. If my family ever asks what I learned from all this, I'll tell them the truth. You taught me the difference between generosity and invasion, between loyalty and submission. You taught me how to choose myself and how to lock the door behind me without guilt. June lifts her head, ears twitching as the first drops of rain fall. I smile and whisper, "Come on, girl. Time to go inside." The door closes with that familiar perfect click, and for the first time in years, I know exactly who I am when it does.